go time.
Seriously.
Looks good.
Heck of a baby bump.
Profile there, baby.
Jason Phelps game called.
Done.
Freaking disgusting.
You just like all hunters do. There's no elk in here anymore. The cats got them all. I don't even know why you guys are in. So we sit there and we BS.
It's the public lands dance.
Yeah.
That's what we like to call it. It's time to do the public lands dance. And usually that's where you lie to each other profusely.
Oh, yeah. And you lie
You
hoping.
seen an elk? Not a one.
I lie to you. You lie to me. We'll all lie together. And
you know where I saw an elk that you guys should go check out? It's over
that
here.
That way.
This spot sucks.
Yeah, where you park your truck, you go 28 miles down that road, go across the highway.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Bowman podcast. I'm here with Jason Phelps at Triple X Archery in Rainier for part 2 or 3 or 4 of some more elk talk with my good friend Jason Phelps, Phelps Game Calls. We just did a podcast where we kind of talked about the calls and, played around with them a little bit and did some bugling. And if you missed that, check it out. I wanted to have another discussion here with Jason about, I think people learn well from hearing hunting stories. Like, I'd like to hear from Corey Jacobson when I ask him, what happened, on this hunt, and he explains the series of events. I learn a lot from that, and I remember it better than, well, this is the tactic I use.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I would like to hear a few hunting stories from you today, elk hunting stories, elk calling stories, because I think I'd like to see these tactics you talk about in context. Yeah. So this way, I think that we'll all kind of benefit from that. So with that, before we get into that, I want to tell people about 2 things that I always forget to mention on the podcast that are new. One is on grittybowman.com. There is a Gritty Index feature where you go to the link, click on that Gritty Index link in the menu on the website, and you can type in any topic you want that you're interested in hearing about. And the index is pretty dialed, I think, at this point. It's doing pretty good. You'll see which podcasts we discuss those topics on, because now we're approaching 300 episodes, and so maybe you just want to get into elk calling episodes or Phelps elk nuggets or whatever. You can just type in Phelps elk or nuggets or elk calling or elk, and all the episodes where that was a part of the subject will come up, and it'll narrow it down. Some are much better, like you'll get, there's the 2 shows. Sometimes you'll get a response of like 30 shows back or 20, but still that's less than 300, so don't complain. So there's that. For all, especially new people trying to find content, maybe it's fitness or health or whatever, it's right there. So the Gritty Index, go there. The second thing I wanted to mention was Aaron and I have gear on a link on our website that is to blackovis.com, where we partnered with Black Ovis. So the only way to get to that gear list and the store is through our website. So you can't go directly to Black Ovis to get there. You got to go to grittybowman.com. You can't miss it. You click on the link to the Gritty Gear Shop with Black Ovis, and then all the stuff that we like is right there in that one place. So, Jason, tell me about some hunting stories that you've got. And we kind of talked about this a little bit before we started. Early season, mid-season, late season, are there things you do differently than you do
mean, we don't play it different. Heavy cow calls play their patterns a little bit more, as we alluded to last time.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much calling. I would say early season, if I was to change something, it would be 80% ambush, maybe call right at the end to finish them off. I want to let them do what they want to do, keep their patterns the same as if I wasn't even in the country.
Yeah.
Get in, close at the end.
It makes sense. I mean, we do that too. Like, they're just not easy to get riled up or as hot. I mean, you can always find that exception to the rule. But in general, we find that it's easier to get close, use their own patterns, sneak up on them as much as you can, get in a place where they're feeding each day, get it where the wind is right. And then if you just need to coax them a little closer or within range, you can then use some calling to do that. But what about early season calling tactics like what Jim Horn does? I do a ton of that, or the cold calling, people call it, or silent calling.
I don't know if you're going to get the answer out of me you want. I have, my patience is maybe measured on something like this.
Yeah.
I would rather be running elk away. I don't have the patience to do it. It can be extremely effective. I have did it before. Mm-hmm. We've been successful. When I've did it, I've been the most successful. A lot of times you get bored, so you call extra and you call too much.
Yeah.
I'm more of in order to be successful, I would call for 15, once every 15 minutes. Some sexy cow calls, some cow to cow communication, and be done for 15 and really listen. Some of the most heavily hunted areas is when we tried this, because I'm like, man, this aggressive stuff isn't producing any results.
Yeah.
Let's go into spots where we've got a lot of elk sign, mm-hmm. where it makes sense that they make him. I like to do cold calling at night where they're going to be coming back out of a bed to feed. So I've got some visuals set up against some of those hard vegetation line, the mixed vegetation. But then I struggle with sitting still. I struggle with, two sequences, half hour in, nothing. I'm going to get up and go find the elk myself. I'm going to go meet them in their bedroom or halfway here. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with cold calling.
Yeah. I'll say I've done a lot of it in the past, and but I don't do it quite like what some have, suggested how to do it, or they teach it. I mean, I get out there and I just start cow calling, sounding like a cow in estrus after a little bit, and then I start sounding like a bull, and I start breaking trees, and I make it sound like there's a whole lot of herd activity going on, like a lot. And I don't really take a break. I'll stop for like a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then go. And I'll stop for maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll go. But I kind of always keep breaking branches or something. But I'm basically creating like herd sounds and a bull that's fairly excited, and I just keep making the noise. And I don't think this is a way to call in a really big bull by any means, but I think it brings in cows and spikes and young raghorns like clockwork.
Yeah, that was my experience in a lot of my cold calling setups. Like, really, why couldn't I have something legal or something brand? A lot of times I'd call in a spike and you'd circle me, or he's like, "What's going on?"
But I would say, like, in an area where it's super hot, they're not calling, you're not seeing elk. Aaron and I would set that up like that, and most mornings and evenings there would be a chance at a nice raghorn bull that would come into the setups. And sometimes we had a whole entire herds come in, like 10 cows in their herd bull just come walking right into this group, first week. So for me though, I mean, I am sounding like a ton of elk.
Yeah.
And
a lot of excitement, a lot of action.
And the thing is that first week, they almost never make a single sound. Like, I don't hear them coming until they're there. So that's the hardest part, is actually guessing which direction they're going to come from. You'd think they'd come downwind of you and check, but a lot of times they just come straight in. They just assume you're a herd elk, and they don't care.
Yeah, they don't check on that.
They're not worried. They're not suspicious, or that they're just, or they're young and dumb and impatient, whatever it might be. But it's worked really well for me. We've called in a lot of elk that way and killed some elk that way when all else isn't working.
Yep.
And Aaron and I did it a bunch last year, and I just sat back and I'd do my thing, and Aaron would go out, and a lot of times we could hear him coming just because the elk are loud. And then Aaron could go 50 yards or 60 yards out in front of me. And one big 350 bull with all his cows just came, and they all stood there about 70 yards from me, and it's thick. And they just stood there milling around, looking, wanting to come closer, but kind of hanging out and circling a little bit. And Aaron was moving in for a shot, and if their cows weren't in the way, he had his recurve, so he couldn't. His effective range was a lot shorter than it is with a compound. So he never got a shot where he would have dropped it with a compound. It was a big bull. So I think, for me, I've found it brings in entire herds, or it brings in raghorn, some nice bulls. Sometimes it's kind of like a mystery thing. You don't know what you're going to get, but I've almost always had it work every time.
Yep. It's been effective. Like, if I'm in an area where I can smell elk, I can see tracks, I can see rubs, I can see the wall has been hit, but yet I can't get anything to respond. That would be that instance where I'm like, you know what, this is a good spot. I should probably, give it an hour or two worth of my time.
Kind of for us, it's like, dang, dude, there were elk just here, or there were elk here last night. You could see all the sign, or an hour ago, or maybe we just came across them. The wind is good, and you can bugle and you can cow call, but they don't talk.
Yep. Yeah, or maybe in 2 weeks they would hammer right back because they could probably hear you, from that area. But yeah, they're not there yet.
They're not there yet. So we're talking August still, and the first few days of September. Now it was a lot different when we went back after we'd hunted that first week. We went back and the game changed. We were calling elk and they were calling back, and we were running in on them and they were charging in on us. And like that bull Aaron shot, it was a moment where we had heard them bugle. Every morning we'd do locators. Bulls would call back, and we'd go, okay, which one do we want to go after? Yeah. Now, they were bedding down really early and calling it quits, like right after light, so your window of opportunity was pretty slim. But anyway, that's one tactic. I don't know a lot of guys who do it, but I know it's worked for me. And when I can't get anything else to work.
What else are you going to
do? We sat on water holes and we did tree stands, but I hate that for elk.
Yeah. Patience wears thin.
It is cool to be in an ambush spot, to be in a tree and watch a giant bull come in and hit a wallow. Hell yeah, that's super awesome. But it feels like also you're just playing the odds game, the luck game. You're just keeping your fingers crossed and hoping something happens instead of making something happen. Yeah. So what's your next mid-season? So
that like September, I've killed the majority of my bulls around home, not like September 10th to the 15th, and I called this, but then so it's kind of like the start of that peak rut. It's my favorite time to hate elk hunting. It's kind of, I absolutely love it because the excitement, the
10th
talking,
to the 15th.
No, that's when I've killed the majority of my bulls. So right on the front end of the peak is when I've killed the majority of my bulls.
Yeah. But it's not your favorite time to go before that.
No, so the 15th to the 30th is the time I love to be in the woods, but I hate to try to kill an elk. I hate it.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. That peak rut, everything's on fire. Everything's talking. Sometimes you don't even have to use
bulls are herding up. They're grabbing cows. They seem like they're a lot more active in terms of risking themselves. Once they've got a herd of cows, it's like, why go after more?
Yeah, and so we get a lot of excitement due to satellite bulls incorporating themselves into the herd. The herd bull doesn't want them in there, so he's spending a lot of time and effort bugling, running those satellite bulls off. Everything's cranking, the rut's cranking, but when you go in to try to peel that bull off, it creates I think I went bald because of that. Those 15 days in the year. But I love to hunt the rut. The peak rut, I absolutely love it. I've been fortunate to kill two of my best bulls ever in that time frame. It's exciting, but some of my tactics change, and I understand going into that now that's going to be frustrating.
But you've killed most of your bulls the 10th through the 15th.
I have. I've killed the majority of my bulls 10th to 15th. My biggest bulls have been in the peak of the rut, though. But I love to hunt it just because that's what I'm truly out there for. I love to hear the excitement.
Yeah.
So, some people have heard the story before. My big bull, my 2012 season was absolutely amazing. Tons of excitement. It was a very hot and dry year, like it seems like every year has been lately. Hunting industrial timberlands, Weyerhaeuser, in my backyard in the Little Paw Hills. We're in bowls day after day. We're not going. We didn't invest so deep into the biking country. We're more hitting and missing. We'll walk into the walk in for 7-8 miles, check things out, come back out, and drive to a different spot. So we were using some approaches like that, but we're now that season had been pushed back, and so we're hunting. And I think it was the 9th of September, 10th of September.
Yep.
I get a great bull to respond in the basin. He's moving towards an old skid road. I'm like, well, this is gonna be perfect. Like I can get in completely unnoticed, get down in there. It was the best of all scenarios because I got him to locate once, and the thing, something had wired his mouth wide open. He was just, he was hammering it. Whatever that call did was enough to. He hadn't, said a single word before that.
Yeah.
But now he's calling religiously every 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay.
Like, well, this is gonna be perfect. He keeps doing that. We get close. We don't have to make another peep. We'll be right on him, and then maybe that ambush and call. We get down in there, get set up. I do my cow call bugle, and instantly, I see him turn in the timber 80 yards away, and he's breaking right towards us. I'm like, oh, this is slam dunk. We're done.
Yeah.
He gets to 36 yards. I range it. Game over. Draw back. And I'm not claiming I'm the greatest shot in the world, but 36 yards should have been slam dunk.
Especially on an elk-sized target.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if I hit a limb. I don't know if I hit that arrow. I just airballed on what I thought was a wide open shot. I'm like, it was the elk gods. Later, come to find out, the elk god swatted that arrow out of the way for me.
Yeah. Makes total sense.
Because we're still telling the story about the biggest bull I ever killed. So this was my standard cookie cutter 180-inch 4-point that I was about to send an arrow through. Coming out of the woods that night, we get back to the main gate, and there's a big pink sign on it: "Woods closed for fire danger. Last day to exit." Oh man,
bummer.
We've got 4 or 5 days left. I've got the rest of the season off. What do we do?
Yeah.
And I spent the next day. I'm on vacation. Kind of. All right, I got to research. I've hunted some of this other country before. I need to go to public lands. Thank God there's public lands that they don't kick us out of when fire danger. So we're like, well, we got this spot. We've scouted this spot. We've been in this spot. Let's go. So now that year, the 15th and the 16th. So we hunted the 14th, 15th, 16th. 14th, we climb into a spot where my buddy had a great 6-point bull the weekend before. Climb up in there, and there is Moroccan music, whatever the type of music they are. There are berry pickers scattered from one side of the ridge to the other. I mean, we're talking 20, 30, 40
people,
berry pickers, just blaring their
human
beings
playing radio, and
they're a lot tougher than me too, because you watch them walking out. They've got their untied Nike tennis shoes on, 3,000 feet above the truck. They've got a 60-pound pack of berries on.
Wow!
And we're like, we go in there, we give it a day, we find 3 spikes, we hunt through there. It is void of any herds of elk sign. And
it's a lot of human activity.
And this goes into, if it wasn't the peak of the rut, we may have held a little longer. But if there's something here, we
totally.
So we
Makes
look
total
at,
sense.
we're like, we gotta get out of here. Like they're going to be back in here.
Yeah.
They told us they're coming back in here to pick berries until
you find another spot.
We bombed down the mountain. I can remember driving around the forest at like midnight. Like, we just got to find somewhere to park. So we pull in there, a spot that we have hunted before. We crashed there. We don't even realize we're at the trailhead. We were so tired. We just pulled out. We're at that trailhead that morning, and we're going. So we jump out and go. Knowing that it's peak of the rut, I don't spend a lot of time peak of the rut. Like, I expect something as I locate bugle to answer. If it's not there, I'm going to find the bull that will and the bull that I can kill.
Yeah.
So we're as fast as we can walk. I'm almost bugling as we're walking in points. We get up there, get to the vantage point, and within 2 seconds, we visually spot this bull, which is my preferred way to do it all the time. If I can spot him visually, it gives me all the time in the world to make some decisions, make a good approach. The thing was, I just laid eyes on a bull that was of giant proportions, especially for the area we're hunting. Just a magnum. I mean, you're like, holy cow. And as soon as I spotted him, he ran behind a group of brush, and so I'm trying to call my buddy over here so he can see in the same pocket that I am.
How far away?
probably 1,000 yards across the basin.
Okay.
Called Derek over there, and the next time he popped up, it was like somebody had went up and put him on the ridge top. There was a big sand cutout, and he had moved like 100 yards up the hill, and the sun was beaming on him, skyline on this sand. I'm like, oh, yeah. It was like, and then at that point, you're like, what are we looking at? Like, this is something special. We quickly jump on our GPS. We're trying to, like, do we go through the basin, go directly at him? We look there, and we're like, man, we got a trail that cuts us through that pass that he's only about 100 yards above. It kind of sucked because we were going to be out of view for 15 to 20 minutes while we made the run around, but we would stay completely secluded, completely clip out of the wind, and it was early enough in the morning we thought the wind was going to be right.
Okay.
So we bombed. I quickly actually even strapped my bow to my pack with some old cinch cord, and we're off. We're running as fast as I can run, which isn't real fast, but we're running at the pace that I'm capable of.
Yeah.
We get there fairly quickly. We were about 15 minutes on the nose, that bull it was the peak rut. He was just hammering. We got down on him. We jumped off the trail probably 100 yards, and it was another instance where he had a giant herd of cows, 45 cows. We had parked ourselves about 60 yards away from that herd of cows, and we started the same boring sequence, estrus whine with a challenge beagle. We're trying to let him know, hey, you got so many cows to keep track of. You're a horrible, wife keeper. I've got one of your cows now, and I'm here to take her away.
Yeah.
So we play that sequence. He gives us one of the most guttural, earth-shaking beagles, and within a minute we could hear him walk up, and he was now 60 yards from me and 10 yards from my hunting buddy. A bull that dreams are made, just a giant, bugling his head off. My buddy had put himself behind a row or a wall of jack firs. He is 10 yards away from this bull that we knew the size of since we got some pretty good glass on him just 15 minutes before, and he can smell his breath. But he has no shot opportunity through a pile of jack firs. Really tight, high mountain, hemlock type, cedar bushes, and he's
on the
shot.
Backside.
On the backside, completely locked in.
Was that intentional? Like, why? Because the old rule of thumb, and you'll hear this from guys that are experts or been there and done this. Trust your camo and get on the front side of that brush.
I think it was just he was comfortable, but now that we look back on the situation, I would have probably set up in front of that wall or picked a tree maybe 30 yards. So what we had a bull. These elk were kind of in a very isolated pocket, and then it came up very steep and then plateaued to where we were.
Yeah.
So we knew that we had all that visual to play with. Like, why not get 30 yards of that edge? When he gets there, we're going to have a pretty clean shot. I would have probably set up in front of a bigger fir tree, kept it behind my back. But, the seclusion of that location, he thought, my buddy thought he was going to be completely secluded.
Yeah.
But what it required me to do, that bull got to that terrain break where he now held up. He can see everything. He can see me plain as day. He can see where the call is coming from, and he's like, there ain't nothing here. I'm not moving any further because my for sure thing is right there.
Right.
And he had got held up.
That's the other rule of thumb. It's like, one of those is, don't hide behind something because then you can't make a shot.
Yep.
You need to get in front of it, get something that breaks up your form, get up against a tree.
Yeah, let the background break up. I mean, you can get away with a little bit of movement. If you could time that on a bull like that with as steep as it was, I would have been thinking, I'll be able to see his horns. I'll be able to see something and get a draw, and like I can use that as my chance to draw. So I probably would have set up. But long story short, I'm not prepared to shoot. I'm calling for my buddy. That bull is standing there in all his glory at what I thought was 55 yards.
Yeah.
And so this lets you know kind of how much you can get away with. He knows where I'm at. He knows that my general area is where I called from.
That's the other thing is you really don't want a bull to come into a call, pinpoint exactly where that call is coming from, crest a ridge or come around a corner and then look at where that call is and go, there's no elk there.
Yeah.
I heard an elk, but I don't see an elk because then the red flags start going off.
Yep. So what I did is I waited long enough that he started to get disinterested in what he's seen. He was getting ready to go back. You could just tell by his...
Did he pinpoint you? Was he looking at you?
He was, but he didn't know I was there. Same thing. Let your camo do your work. I was crouched down on a knee. I had some grass along the trail, so really you could only see...
He looked at you and he was like, is that a thing?
And
then he'd look around and kind of...
I make a good effort never to like. There's something about making eye contact, like direct eye contact with a bull. So I was really just kind of looking at the grouse, looking at my buddy.
I'm with you, man. I don't know what it is, but they can see eyeballs.
Yeah, and so I avoided all eye contact. I was watching my buddy, kind of
Me
like.
too. I usually pull my hat down, and it's like
out of the
trying
corner
to hide
of
my
your
eyes.
Out of the corner of your eye. Yep, out of the corner of your eye. I'm watching him, and I can tell he's getting nervous. He's bugling. He's wanting to know where the heck this bull's at. Why the heck do you have one of my cows? Maybe he's telling his cow to get the heck back over here. I don't know. But he's hammering. He's not very happy. Maybe 30 seconds. He maybe bugles 4 or 5 times in that 2 minutes. His body, his actions start to let me know that he's about ready to go back to his cows. He's like taking a few steps, starts to turn to the left. I'm like, well, shoot, I'm not going to let him go.
I better now or never.
I didn't range. I thought it was 55, drew back. As I said, there's a bull, there's a definite break off, and I watch my arrow sail just over his back and go down in that pocket. And I'm like,
loser.
No, nobody's going to believe me how big this bull was. Nobody at that time, I didn't know. I thought he was actually bigger than he was. I thought the kicker and some things lined up different. I thought I had just missed the state record. I knew about where the state record was. I knew that this bull was still going to be close, regardless of what I thought. But at that time, I was like, I just missed a state record. Don't have any.
It doesn't matter if it was a state record or not. It was that big that you thought it might be.
Well,
basically.
At that time,
it's a big animal.
I was in a position there. Like now, state records don't mean it's the size of the bull, the experience. But at that point in my life, state record meant something.
Right.
Like I knew a number. I knew that bull was bigger than that number. As stupid as it sounds now, I kind of laugh at myself. But like, I just miss. It's a giant. Yeah. None of my buddies are going to believe me. Like, it's probably a 340 bull. It's probably a 330 bull. Like, no, this thing was a mega, like giant.
Right.
And I can remember my buddy wanting to interview me we had a GoPro, and he's like, what just happened? I'm like, I didn't want to talk about it. Like, I can fake, like, you got to get back on the horse. We got 1 day left.
Right.
But, this sucks. Like, I'm just pissed right now.
Yeah.
So we go through that, and I actually get mad enough.
And did the bull run off? Like,
yeah, we shadowed him for a little bit. He bugled a lot because there was a lot of chaos at the time when he took off at the shot. The cows took off. And so we played with him for a little bit.
Tried, but it failed.
If we just made the decision to back out. Like, he's going into a hellhole.
Yeah.
We don't want to chase him down there. We don't want to push him out of here. We have 1 day left. Frustrated, we bombed down off the mountain, hiked the 6 miles out. I need a beer. I'm going, let's go to town. I want a burger and a beer. So we go down, we do that. I'm like, you know what? We do need to get back on. We need to go back up and see if we can at least locate him tonight. We might not get a hunt in. We may not get a setup on him, but we need to figure out where he's at.
Okay.
So we make good play in the morning. We get back to Trailhead, and there's a truck parked there. I'm like, what? But I'm being optimistic, right? After being at about the lowest lows of releasing a bad arrow, you're like, well, there's lots of places you can go up there. That trail branches off 3 or 4 different trails. He's probably not in our basin. We get right to the rock across from the same spot we spotted him from originally. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, so now I'm praying that he just be quiet. If you're here anymore, I don't know if you're here, be quiet. And this guy bugles across the basin, the same trail we would have took to him if we went direct. And he gets over there and talks to us. And just like all hunters do, there's no elk in here anymore. The cat's got them all. I don't even know why you guys are in here.
Yeah.
Why are you missing an arrow out of your quiver? You notice some stuff like this, like, I missed a bull earlier in the year.
Typical.
I lie to you, you lie to me, we'll all lie together.
The typical. Yeah.
So we BS him for a while, and
you know where I saw an elk that you guys should go check out. It's over here.
That way.
This spot sucks.
Where you parked your truck, you go 28 miles down that road, go across the highway. So we sit there and we BS.
It's the public lands dance.
Yeah.
What we like to call it. It's time to do the public lands dance. And usually that's where you lie to each other profusely.
Oh, yeah. And you lie
you
hoping.
Seen an elk? Not a one.
You lie to them so bad that you hope that they think that you're lying. So like, yeah, we're not coming back tomorrow. We're out. We've out hunted this. We're done. We've tore it up, and we're coming back tomorrow. Like, so hopefully you agree with us in reverse psychology. You don't come back either.
Right.
So they walk off about 10 minutes, and I know they can probably still hear me, but I let off a locator. But they're on the backside now, and I don't think they're going to be able to hear the bull respond. And
these are the other hunters.
Yeah. Instantly responds. I'm like, game on. Pretty distinct. Big guttural bugle.
Right. This is the same night?
Yeah, same night I missed. So we're back up there. We sit there, and now I don't make another peep for that entire night. It's a peak right. He continues through that.
So you just
night.
located him that night.
He's still in that brush hole we left him in. It's pretty tough to get in.
Never responded to the other hunters though.
Nope, didn't answer to him. And the Toodaloo beagles, the stair stepper beagles, they work. They have their place, and I would still probably bet my life's earnings, which isn't a lot, on the blue reeds. Probably still killed more bulls than any of my calls have. They work. Yeah. But in that instance, that bull wanted something more real. He wanted a different tone. He answered me right back that night. And so I'm done calling for the entire night. If he doesn't make a quick approach up to the top, we're done. The wind actually switched, thermals. The sun goes down. Yep. Now we're sitting up top. He's down there. Now we're getting worried.
Now the wind's bad.
Do we need to back off? We want to keep listening to him, but we don't want to get winded. So we're kind of playing that game like, all right, it's not in my nature, but we're going to slow play this again.
Yeah.
We bomb off the mountain. We didn't bring our stuff to stay overnight. Go back down to the rig, and we're back into that next morning. An absolutely beautiful smoke-filled sunset, with one of the red suns. So I turn my GoPro on. We're dinking around trying to film the sunrise on the go. I don't even know why. And he's already beagling, and we can tell he's up high, about where we have been seeing him. We squeeze up there. As much as I'd love to say I called in my biggest bull, we only called once. We sneak up to that same rock we've been on, and it's not only a rock, it's a cliff below it.
Yeah.
We get close enough to that edge. That bull is actually at the backside of the meadow, so we can actually see him first.
You see him.
We see and know exactly.
How far away?
So this is a great story that the night before, as we're sitting there, we played the guess the range game from that exact spot.
Okay.
43, 56, what's that tree? 80. We sit there. I back up and tell Derek, like, 43 yards. We're going to draw on the count. We're both going to draw. We're going to take one step forward, and we're going to shoot on the count of 3. Funny.
So this is after you've bugled, you pinpointed him, you've snuck into place. Now you're in a spot where you were just at earlier, night before. So now you know the terrain, the distances, and all that.
Yeah, it's the same glassing spot we go to every time, the same exact point.
And he's right there.
Yep. So I look at
you back off the cliff.
Yeah, well, Derek's behind me, so I'm the only one that's seen him right now.
Yeah.
Like Derek. He's here. Like, it's him.
43 yards.
43.
Let's draw, move forward.
Yep. We'll both draw. And we have talked on this hunt, because I had never really hunted with Derek very much until this hunt. He talked about some of his uncles and his dads always shooting on 2.
Yeah.
And so this is actually running through my head. So I'm thinking, I got the shot the day before. Derek's never killed a bull before at this point. Like, what if he kills this one as number
first?
So I'm like, that goes through my mind. But I'm like, all right, I'm going to give him till 3.5. Like, he's going to get the first arrow off. I'll be backup arrow.
Yeah.
Shoot if he misses. We draw. We're standing side by side. I'm like, we're kind of just motioning, like, let's walk forward. We walk forward, both at full draw. 1, 2, 3. And this is the slowest 3 seconds of my life. In all this happening, you've got a bull.
Who's counting?
I count down, because I'm letting him shoot. But let's
3.
anchor. Let's get the pins on him. In this 3 seconds, I realize that I've got 15 to 16 cows and calves I could drop a rock on off the cliff. They've all now looked straight up at me. I'm like, well, this adds a little bit.
They're hearing 1, 2, 3.
Well, they hear us walk, and they can actually. There are some cows a little further out, and they turn their heads. The rest of the herd turns up.
Yep.
And a bull that's close to 50 inches wide is very impressive. And you watch his rack go from straight on to
what's up there.
The rock. I'm like, oh boy, everything just got
real intense,
quick. Like, do we now have a quarter of a second to shoot? Do we now have 2 seconds? Do we have 5 seconds?
Right.
Out of the corner of my eye, as I get to 3, Derek's arrow is trapped between his riser and his rest. Same old school trophy taker. Somewhere in the draw or the walk process, he had lost.
No way.
He had lost being on the rest. And I'm a nice friend, but I'm not nice enough friend to give you a chance to let down, redraw, and put the arrow on, because I know it's going to happen.
Dude, it's over, man. You got to be. You don't get these opportunities very often in archery.
At 3.5, I buried an arrow. It was a partial frontal, straight inside there. And instantly you're trying to confirm, what did that arrow do? Did it go straight? Did it turn? I was pretty sure I had got heart on the shot.
What broadhead were you using?
At that time, I was shooting a slick trick Viper trick. Extremely sharp. We make sure
blade.
Yeah, two main blades cut on contact with the bleeders.
Yeah, I've used that.
Extremely sharp heads. That arrow,
Accurate flight.
Yeah, everything was money. I couldn't have went and put an arrow on that angle any better. So we mark your shot, knowing the broadheads are razor sharp. Never even been into a piece of foam. Blades were all changed out. All right, we're good. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I just stuck a bull. It's the last day. It's opening day at NFL. My uncles and dads who aren't bow hunters are all at home 3 hours away. I'm trying to get up there on top of the hill to let my mom, my uncle, somebody know that we'll answer the dang phone early in the morning on a Sunday that I just put an arrow in a bull. It's not a for sure deal, but I may need some help packing here in a little bit. My mom thinks I'm dying because I get cut off like 10 times as I'm.
What did Derek think?
We're high-fiving. I mean, we're all in it.
Did he let the arrow down then?
He did after my arrow was in him. He let go, and I think, I mean, he's happy for it, but I can't imagine not feeling a little bit of that sucks.
Yeah.
So Derek stays down there, and we're trying to listen because he had a giant herd, 45 cows. It just explodes, all those elk. Everything's mewing. I can't keep track of which one was the bull. I keep track of his exit route, kind of the trail he took.
Yeah.
As I had mentioned, I went up, tried to call my mom. Everybody thought I was dying. I was waiting for helicopters to come find me because you're breathing loud. You've got, but so we call, and then we wait about an hour. We go down and investigate the arrow, the blood, and the slick trick did a great job right off the bat. There was a lot of bright red blood that dripped in the grass in the meadow and into the brush. We're on him, and then he jumps a log, and we're only 35 yards in this tracking job, and you start to get that sick feeling that we've all got, like, no way, this blood trail cannot die this quick. It went from good to bad. We're like, all right, let's take our time. Let's do this right. The bad thing was that bull left the meadow first, and those 40 cows, half of them went the same direction he did.
Aaron shot a bull last year, and there was good blood, and he joined up with like 40 other elk, and then they all ran off together, and it was like, pfft.
Yeah, dirt means nothing anymore. Broken ferns, broken sticks, nothing.
I mean, you can follow that mass group as they exited, which we did.
So the one telltale sign, and not that I'm a better tracker than anybody, knowing that I hit him in that fright right shoulder, and I had seen him kind of favor that right shoulder.
Yeah.
His track size is obviously larger, so you can tell a little bit from that. His front left hoof was very heavy. He was putting a lot of weight on that, and I could tell if I was looking on the left side of this trail when he would pound a hoof in, and I knew that was him. Now with the frontal shot, we're not getting great blood. His mane's soaking a lot of it up. His legs are soaking a lot of it up.
Right.
We get a few brushes of where his leg is brushing through some grass.
Right.
I'm like, all right, we're back on him. We get to 75 yards, and there was the Stevie Wonder piles of foamy blood.
Yeah.
He had sat there for just a second and just tons of blood loss. From then on, the next 25 yards, it was a done deal. I could have ran and kept up with the blood trail, and he had tipped over there. Peak rut. So I didn't do a whole lot of calling. It kind of goes back to that, a little bit of ambush, knowing where he was. The day before, we did a lot of our standard peak tactics. We got in closer to his cows than he was, and we just hammered and gave him no other option to come in.
Well, it's getting me excited to get out and hunt.
I'm reliving the stories. That's what it's all about. I wish I had some of those on video, but just telling them it's like, man, just to relive those moments is.
It's pretty awesome. It's amazing. Unless you've done it, it's hard to explain it, especially when it comes to elk. They're just their bugle, their size. When you talk about that, all those cows and calves looking up at you, and then the bull turned his head, it's like, just seeing that size of rack just turn and look at you. It's like, and then the intensity with what they're like, uh-oh. Yeah. It just is, it's pretty cool.
I always joke with the wife, outside of the kids being born and maybe us getting married, like my favorite, if I could bottle that 5 seconds up, is like, and just like, if I could, I don't know, it's just, I love my kids and my wife, but it's like, man, there's just something about that just gets you going.
Yeah, I think it's primal.
Yeah,
I think it's built in the DNA. I mean, anybody who gets out and actually does it for a while, I mean, I don't understand. I don't think you could not feel in your bones as something that's special about it.
Yeah, so it was cool. So,
well, Jason, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I think not only does it make me excited to go hunting, but I think there's a few things I learned there. So hopefully other people did too. And I'm looking forward to hearing how your season goes.
should be busy.
I'll be watching you, and if you don't do really well, I'm just gonna count you a failure moving forward.
I've failed before. I hate it. I hate the taste of failure. So we try not to ever get back there.
No, I'm with you, dude. It's such a. Last year I did not kill an elk.
What?
I did not kill an elk. I helped Aaron a lot. I did tons of calling for Aaron, and we got that elk. And then we drove all the way to Idaho. And we did call in an elk right on that first day, or close to it, where elk came in, and then the wolves came in.
You killed that.
And I shot the wolf. That elk, I'm convinced, I'm sure, would have given me a nice 18-yard shot in like he would have just stepped in the open. I'd have been at full draw already. It was perfect. But then the very next day, we got into elk again. Aaron called a bull in, and I made a mistake. I got in position. It was wide open, and there wasn't a lot of cover. There were some trees, but there was no brush. It was all dirt, with old growth pine kind of stuff, and it wasn't thick. It was sparse, but it was still a canopy. And I scurried forward, got in position, was looking for a tree to hide behind, and then the bull came out from the timber, thick timber, and into this kind of more open space with two or three cows. So now I got 4 elk, coming at me and walking into the calls that Aaron's just below me calling from. And I'm perpendicular to his path on his way to Aaron, so I'll get a nice broadside shot. The problem was I didn't have time before that to get behind a tree or up against a tree, not behind it, but up against one or one behind me or anything. There really wasn't a lot of cover. There's no bush.
Kind of out in the wide open.
There's no nothing. So I'm on a slope on a game trail, and I hunker down into like a ball, and so I'm sitting there with my bow, and I'm right there. But that bull came down, and he just saw me in the trail. And like you said, he's at 20 yards, 25 yards. And I never could get my bow drawn at first because he's coming in. He's looking though. He's pretty alert. He's cautious. He's looking down the hill at the caller, but he can't see Aaron until he crests this little butte, and he's real close. He's about 60 yards from the butte, but he's slowing down, taking a few steps, slowing down. And so I got to get my bow back, right? But I'm sitting there in the wide open, and he's looked at me 2 or 3 times, but hasn't seen me. But he's looked right there, and he can see the movement. I mean, and so can the other 3 cows, right, are right there with him. They're all looking at Aaron, but they're scanning left and right. So as they're coming down the hill, I'm like, okay, I got to get this bow back, And I couldn't draw it way back there where he was at because I didn't know which way he was going to come. You don't want to be at full draw that long. So comes down the hill, and he gets, and then finally he's going to go behind a cluster of trees, and I can get my bow back. Like, finally. And so the other cows also are behind this cluster. So I'm like, I'm going to get the bow back. Wind is perfect. He's perpendicular, and he's broadside to me. As soon as he steps out of those trees, I'll shoot him. Well, once he got behind those trees, he'd stood there forever. And I could see glimpses of his body, through the trees, but I couldn't see him, his full silhouette or vitals. And so he takes a few steps, and he stands for a long time, and he kind of does that, like little weak bugles, like I'm
almost not audible. Yeah.
Almost like he's, kind of like he's very curious, but he is not bugling. So he's pretty interested, but he's, it's like he's sneaking in. So he's very cautious. Yeah. And same with the cows. He was sneaking in. So, finally I'm like, okay, now I got to draw my bow back because he's going to be out of this cluster soon. So I pull the bow back, and I get it back, and I'm holding it. Now I'm just waiting for him to walk out, but I'm kneeling down and pointing uphill. He's uphill from me, and I'm starting to shake, get a little tired, and I lower the bow down to my hip because based on his earlier movements, he's been camping behind that tree. He's probably got another minute or two before at the pace he's been going. Well, that sucker, as soon as I put that bow down, it's at full draw, but I got too tired holding it. I was shaking, so I let it down on my hip. It's still back. But he walks out like, he kind of jogs out like all of a sudden, right? Like, and then he peeks and he's looking down the hill. But instantly, as I start to move, he turns and looks right at me. And he's probably 22 yards, I think is what I ranged him at. 22 yards, and now my bow is not pointed at him. It's pointed at the dirt, not at him.
Yeah.
And he's staring at me. And he's staring, and he's staring, and he's staring, and he's staring. And now I'm at full draw. I've been back for a while now. Now I'm just holding it, I'm holding it, I'm holding it, I'm holding it. I'm just like, dang it. And part of the issue was, I mean, had I been up against a tree or a bush or standing beside a tree or anything at all, I would have been something, I mean, I would have blended into whatever I was next to.
Yeah.
But here I'm right in the middle of a friggin' game trail that he walks up and down every day. I think he kind of recognized that this wasn't here this morning or every day in his living room, right?
Yeah.
They're not dumb.
Yeah, I think they recognize something that's out of place.
And so he just kept looking at me. He's like, that's something new. And he just looked and looked and looked and looked. And then you got that. You know, I got my head down. I'm not giving him my eyeballs. I'm just looking at him through the corner of my eyes. And I can tell the cows are starting to, like, get a little frantic. They're kind of like, something ain't right. He starts to, like, move around, be like, not comfortable. And I'm hoping he'll just, Aaron will bugle or make a sound or whatever to get his attention. But Aaron had gone quiet because he knew they were right there looking down the hill. So he didn't make a sound. So I'm hoping beyond hope that Aaron might squeak anything that just gets him to turn around. But Aaron didn't have visibility. You saw his antlers, you know. So I'm like, so everything combined against me at that moment. And I'm like, and then I'm shaking so bad, he starts to spin, and I try to get the bow up, and he is gone in 2 seconds, like nothing. And so it goes from a 20-yard slam dunk to nothing in an instant. And it haunts me all the time because it's like, that was a gimme. It was like, I could have shot him a number of times. There were some times where I could have shot through the trees and hit his vitals, I'm pretty sure, but I wasn't positive. There's just so many opportunities that were perfect, and just, I don't know, and for it to be snatched out of your grasp when it's like you can taste it, it does cut deep. It does cut deep. So, but it is what it is, man. It happens.
Yeah, no.
I wasn't nervous. I was really, I felt really good about my decision making up to the point where I just didn't buckle down a little longer. Because later I thought about it, and I tested it when I got home. How long can I hold the bow at full draw and still make a good shot? I can hold for about 2 minutes without resting. I'd probably held for 30 or 40 seconds before I set it down. I could have gone a lot longer. And now I've made that decision. Like, don't let down. Keep the pin right where you think that bull's going to step out.
Yeah, wait.
Keep it there as long as you possibly can until that moment where you're like, I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. Why quit early when I had another minute and a half where I could have held?
It's the same thing as me last year. I held my bow a little over 2 minutes before I let an arrow go.
Yeah,
it wasn't as good. It wasn't as comfortable, but you know, I was still holding on.
Yeah, and so. I easily could have. I timed it since then and practiced that, and I can hold my bow at full draw for more than 2 minutes easily, and make a great shot, especially at that range. So it was rookie in one sense that after 30 seconds, I'm like, it's going to be a little bit. Let's just rest. And that was the difference. I mean, couldn't have timed it more where I set it down and he comes trotting out at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did you all of a sudden get all antsy?
Yeah,
when you've been like dragging 1 foot at a time for the last minute and a half, you know? So I would have been able to get that bow up if you hadn't just darted out. You know, and I didn't want him to see. It was just a bad thing.
Yep.
But it happens, and then Aaron missed a few too. He had a recurve as an excuse, although he wants to say that's not an excuse. But I'm very much looking forward to this year because I really didn't get that many days in of elk hunting last year. Just a few, just like 5 days. So this year I drew a good tag. Aaron's going to help me. And then after I tag out, I'm going to help Aaron. So I'm really excited.
I'm ready. I'm jonesing to get out in the woods. We do all this, do all of our off-season stuff all for for me, for this month. I love mule deer hunting and whatnot, but this month of September, early October is it.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Jason. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Keep it up. We'll be watching you.
Yeah, stay gritty.
Stay gritty.